Hi guys, my name is Natasha Thomas. I am the first grade teacher at Beaver Creek Elementary, and I received an innovation grant for Rocket Books for my little first graders. And I'm so excited to share with you today our achievements, our struggles, our results. So here we go. Okay, so the title of my grant was Beaver Achievers Digital Writers in the First Grade. And again, I am Natasha K. Thomas, first grade teacher and grant recipient at Beaver Creek Elementary. So the problem that I was faced with, of course, like many other educators this year, or I should say this school year, is how was I going to continue to implement the writing process with a first grade class, and I apologize, and still present myself effectively on that digital platform, that virtual platform. So the problem at hand was how could the implementation of these digital notebooks that I had researched and read and heard all the reviews of fellow co-workers, to teachers across the district, to teachers across the nation, inside our 21st century first grade classroom, to enhance those fine motor skills, to convey understanding of my students, and to ultimately have that student success across the curriculum. Primarily, of course, in the area of composition, but I also wanted to provide that ease to not only my students, but the guardians during this pandemic, because let's face it, we were thrown into a wild roller coaster ride of education as guardians, parents, and teachers. So I wanted to give them something that would still have normalcy, such as a notebook, but to also convey their ideas and thoughts and understandings in that digital virtual platform. So I had several questions that I wanted answers to when I started implementing the Rocket Books into first grade, and that was, how will I cover my content with these? How will I reach all of my learners and maintain differentiation for those learners? How will I aid my students that need that tactile, kinesthetic learning experience to understand their new concepts? And then ultimately, how am I going to enhance handwriting, which is now a required standard of first graders, which truly should have been all along, and really as teachers we were requiring that, but now it's actually in our standards. But how was I going to do that virtually? How was I going to know if little Johnny was writing at a proficient level on a virtual platform? So with the content that I am required to teach in first grade, just like many of you guys, the big thing was handwriting. They lost the last leg of kindergarten since the pandemic struck in March. And here in our district, we've been, in and out, and we're out consistently from March all the way up to September. So, the littles, as I like to call them, my little first graders, they came into me really struggling with handwriting because, again, that's where our socioeconomic comes into play. Our guardians and parents working on handwriting skills at home, and not saying they're not, but we do know we have the little Johnnies that, of course, are not getting those practice skills at home because their family may be just focused on survival. So, of course, that is my big thing, is I need students to legibly be able to print upper lowercase letters plus all of their numerals in a correct form. Those notebooks have really helped with that. They've allowed students to not only practice and perfect their handwriting skills on the first grade level, but it's also helped implement those fine motor skills across subject areas and enhance their answers, which I'll get into this in just a second, but I'm just so excited because they come into me and they can't write a short answer. And let's face it, I'm not dogging any kindergarten teachers because, especially at this time, we're just worried and practicing on getting our letters formed. And now, guys, in the end of March, the conclusion of March, I had first graders giving me a short answer with a detail supporting their answer as to why. And I'm just so excited because coming in at September, and again, we went virtual for most of the year, I was not getting that. And if I was getting that, I was questioning, was it really the students' work? So I'm just so excited. And these notebooks have, assisted those students with the motor skills, how to hold the pencil, how to form the letters and numbers while they were learning at home. And the great thing about it is all I had to do, and all parents had to do, was sanitize it with a good old Clorox wipe. And a little, water, and it comes with the cloths, of course. So when I got them back into class, I was able to just sanitize them down and let them dry, and then we were ready to roll the next day. So that's exciting as well, especially in a pandemic. We don't want to be passing papers back and forth. And these notebooks allowed us to escape that. So differentiation, I am really big on differentiation. I'm one of those teachers that my centers have different levels for different needs, for different students' abilities. So I'm freaking out in this pandemic. I'm like, how am I going to differentiate myself like this, talking on a screen, when I'm used to, having blocks and having things that they can see and touch and feel and make. So these notebooks actually allowed us to keep everything in one place, which helped me because I am an organization freak, I guess you could call me. So it just kept everything neat, everything there, everything was able to be transferred back and forth through the app. I was able to transfer things to them through Google, of course. Classroom is our main platform, and it was so easy. And now that we're back in person, I'm finding that I'm not at the copier as much anymore because students are able to put this in that notebook. And then once we get it scanned and put into our Google Drives and our Google Classrooms, then we can go back and erase it, sanitize it, let it dry, and use it the next day. So it's just really exciting that we now have something that is reusable. And I am a huge advocate of dry erase boards. We use them religiously. Well, guess what? These notebooks are now like our dry erase notebooks, and I love it. I love it. So here's some pictures of my babies in my first grade class, and yes, that's what I call them. I know that's not politically correct, but they are my babies. And we were practicing verbs. Again, that's something that I always teach at the beginning of the year, but I'm having to go back and review that because, of course, we didn't have great turnout with virtual on a daily basis. So that's something we are reviewing. They were circling their verbs in their sentences that they were writing with their laminated task cards that, again, I can wipe off. And the student on the right actually illustrated hers, which I thought was awesome. Okay, so again, more of differentiation and usage. I apologize, guys. My 5-year-old's in the background. When you get me, you get my 5-year-old and my 9-year-old. We're just the package deal. But anyways, on with what's important at the moment is it provides such ease with usage and storage. Like I said, I am able to take my written notes on my dry erase board that I have the beacons in the corner of. I'm able to transfer it onto Google Classroom. Not just because we're on virtual Wednesday, but because parents, who are involved want to get on there and see study notes or things that I've taught. And it's so cool now, of course, in virtual, I was able to teach that way. I could put my board work up and I could teach like that and then put it on there and they could review it throughout the night, day, or week. And then now that we're back in person, and thank goodness, it's going very well, and most of mine, well, all of mine almost, but one is back in person. So that allows them to go back on homework or studying and look at what I've taught that day. So that's exciting as well. It's easy to transfer. You use the app. You can send it to email, Google Drive. Parents, guardians, students, and teachers all can really get the hang of this. My students get so excited. I wish I had videoed them the first time that I had ever pulled them out in person, because even though most of them knew what they were, they just got so excited and they were clapping and cheering and they were like, yay, we get to use the Rocket books. And it's just something different for them. It's a little escape from the regular old notebook. And I'm not even going to lie, I had several students, of course, that did not pick them up, or we didn't drop them off for different reasons. Again, back to the socioeconomic status. or if they did have them, they didn't use them, or they'd bring them back and never come back and get them, or didn't drop off. So I actually had an extra that I let my daughter use here at home during her virtual experience with 3rd grade. And it was just so convenient and so easy. And at this time in life and education, that is what we need. We need convenience. We need ease, because there's so much on our plate as educators that we have to get across, that being able to give something that's easy is just, it's a blessing, truly. So now they're able to see my board when they are virtual, and again, I do have a student that is virtual, and then sometimes, little Sally or little Johnny gets sick and isn't at school, and they're able to go back on Google Classroom and see what Miss Thomas has taught that day. And it's not up on a video that they're trying to, get real close and see, or they're trying to zoom in. It's there. They're getting the board experience on a virtual platform, which is just so cool. It's up close, it's personal, and it gives them that sense of being in class. So here is my teacher notebook, because again, I've had students move, and then, like I said, I had a few extras that didn't pick up for whatever reason, or didn't get to use for whatever reason. So I did have one that I was able to use and scan here at home. This is a picture of back in the winter when I was doing a virtual lesson, and I just scanned it using the QR code in my app, and I slapped it on Google Classroom. So that was a lesson on identifying tens and ones. Here is a student, well, 2 students actually, practicing their work at home with their long A words. So that's exciting. They were using it not just for lessons, but also for practice and homework. And I still have a student who his mother has asked if he can transfer it back and forth to school. That way, if for some reason she wants to send me something to just check, learning with at home, or if he's sick, or virtual Wednesdays, if he needs just to check. And I love that, because not every parent is that involved. And that's exciting that they love it so much that she asked if they could. And I've actually since then decided to send them home on Wednesdays, which at first made me a little nervous about getting them back. But it's worked out well. It's worked out well. So, of course, reality comes with everything. And we have, the dark with the light, or the good with the bad. So, here in our district, again, I'm not in any way negatively saying anything toward any of my students or guardians or parents or grown-ups, as I like to call them. But we did have students that did not participate on a daily basis with virtual, which was a little discouraging, a little heartbreaking. It still breaks my heart to think of how many students has lost out on education for different reasons. Again, I'm not in any way negatively commenting on anyone. So with that, not every student got to experience a Rocketbook when I first got them, when I was on the total virtual platform, and therefore they didn't get to implement the usage of how awesome these are. And the whole purpose of them was the virtual. That's why I wanted them, because at the time when I wrote this grant, virtual just seemed to be the new normal. And honestly, I don't know if it's going anywhere anytime soon, giving the students the option now that we see how it does work. So, they didn't really get to use the Rocketbooks until they were back in person. And then with data, that is something, of course, that every teacher, I'm sure, can relate to. It's been a little skewed, a little biased, because they've been at home for the bigger part of the year. And now that they're back in class, we're seeing huge differentiation in what they were doing at home and what they're now doing in class. So, of course, that's kind of been, again, downhearting, heartbreaking, just like a little bummer, because some students you think, wow, they're really doing amazing. And then they come back and that's when reality hits. It's kind of like, wow, okay, now I see where we're really at. So I do, and that goes back to virtual. I did have to include that, though, because not every student got to experience the Rocketbook on the virtual platform. But they are now back in class, like I said, except for one of my now 17 students. One of them is still virtual, but the other 16 are back in class, and they have definitely used them on a daily basis, and they love them. They do. They love them. This, again, is the lesson that I was doing on action verbs, and they were just so excited. You can see it in her little eyes. Like, she's so proud of herself because she got her task card. She wrote her sentence. She identified that verb, and Miss Thomas didn't help her a bit. And I do a little game called Popcorn, Popcorn, Who Do I See? And I'll say their name is looking at me, and I pull out their little popcorn from my popcorn bucket, and it randomly chooses a student to read their sentence, and they get time to practice their sentence. And if they need that resource, aka Miss Thomas, to help them, then they get to raise their hand or put a thumbs up if they're good, or raise their hand if they need to stop and ask for help. So that allows them to practice their fluency. It allows them to practice their composition and their handwriting.
Look, I made rings and bridles.
Ooh. So the little student on the right, she decided she was going to write more than one sentence with her task card, which was super exciting. And I was so proud of her, and she illustrated it as well. So a lot of progress is happening in first grade. We're not exactly where we want to be with scores, but we are seeing progress. And to me, as a first grade teacher, that is the most rewarding thing, is coming back from such a life-changing experience of virtual education and seeing them use this tool to enhance their understanding, their learning, is just, it's a huge reward. You know, rain brings sun eventually. We can have several rainy days, and there's always sun to come. So the Rocket Books, of course, are now being implemented into our in-person classroom on a daily basis, and they have been since February, which is when we returned in person. Now, here's the exciting part. Students' scores on my classroom summative assessments in reading comprehension has increased 20%, and that includes vocabulary. And vocabulary is something that we do on a daily basis inside of our Rocket Books. So I kind of feel like Rocket Books has helped from virtual to in-person increase because they are not only seeing it, hearing it, they're writing it. Okay, and then 10% increase in short answer scores pertaining to mathematics, which, of course, again, we have a math Rocket Book where we go in daily and we do our journals, we do our short answer practice. So I feel like that is a big increase from where we were when we first started to now. In person, again, let me stress this. We've only been in person consistently since February, and we're just now in the first day of April. So not even a full month, because, you know, February had bad weather. So I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of them. Here is our map and star assessments. Again, we are not where we want to be, or shall I say, in comparison to where we normally are. However, I'll take it. We just now, on Tuesday, March the 29th, started our map assessment with first grade at Beaver Creek Elementary. And therefore, I can only measure the area that we've tested in since winter. Now, in winter, we did, of course, reading and math, but we've only taken the reading part on Tuesday. But already we see that there's a 12% growth in average scores. Now, that's students who scored an average score or ranked in the average percentile. There's a 12% growth since winter. Now, again, that's not what I usually can compare to or prayed for or hoped for or banked on, but I'll take it because it's growth. And again, we've been using those Rocket Books since February consistently with all 16 that are in person. I have sent one to my virtual student as well. Sadly, I can't say that he or she, I don't want to be specific, is consistently using that Rocket Book. But the ones that are in person, they do consistently use it. The STAR assessment has not been given yet for the spring semester. Therefore, I can't compare scores from our winter STAR to our spring or even our fall. Because, you know, Rocket Books came in late fall. Then, like I said, it was really inconsistent with the virtual that we're using. Rocketbooks, or even logging in to do the lessons and watch the lessons, hear the lessons, participate in the lessons, and the list goes on and on. My biggest achievement has been, since being back in person, I had a formal observation of in person with all 16 first grade students. And I was left one of the best, and I could cry, notes or reviews that I've ever received. I take my job, just as all of you do, very seriously and to heart. So the fact that he wrote this on my observation was just, it's exactly what I needed. It is exactly what I needed. And he did get to observe students implementing the usage of Rocketbooks during this first grade lesson. It was a lesson on place value. Students, of course, had their own individual trays. They were manipulating base 10 blocks. They had the tens and ones and hundreds chart. And then they were writing their work, their answers, their thoughts, their TOs, as we like to call them, or HTOs, inside the Rocketbooks. And it was just like raise the roof moment, because they know what they're doing. I don't have to tell them, they know what they're doing. And we do have tablets that I was blessed enough 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago, I can't remember, to receive through an innovation grant, that we can scan these through the app and put into our Google Classroom. So that's exciting as well. We do have tablets for every child in first grade that they do know how to use, and if they don't, or have a hiccup, as we like to call them, all they have to do is make a stop sign. So it's working great. I'm excited. And something that I didn't add into this slideshow that I really wish I would have is, where do I see myself going with this? I just want to say that I'm never, ever, ever requiring those spiral bound notebooks again in my class, because we will be using Rocketbooks. So I've already got thoughts in my head of how I'm going to go forward with this, what I'm going to do next year with my new first grade class, how we're going to use them for different subject areas. So I'm excited. This is something that's not just going to help us in 2020, 21, but years to come. Signed, sealed, delivered. Here was my PO. I got 2 of the ThinkBoard white stickers that I have a rolling board in my classroom, and crazy me, you didn't take a picture of it, but I wish I had actually videoed and took a picture. I can always add it to the hauler, but I put the stickers on this old rolling whiteboard that I have, and it doesn't erase good. Well, now it's like brand new, because the dry erase stickers are on there, and I'm able to put the beacons on them. If you notice, I ordered 3 of the beacon packs, which 3 came in a pack, and I got 3 of those. So I was able to put them on there and use them virtually, use them in person, and like I said, put them on Google Classroom for students and guardians to review. Each student, I ordered 28 because at the time I had a large class. Like I said, our numbers have fluctuated. I now have 17 students, but we have 28 Rocketbooks. And inside the pack, there of course came a Rocketbook, and I'll grab one real quick. So they got their Rocketbook, and I keep one with me at home, because with the weather and life, we just never know what's going to happen. But this stays in my teacher's bag. This is their spiral bound Rocketbook. It has several pages inside of it that they are able to write on and erase. It has QR codes in the corners that all they have to do is scan using the app and a grown-up's help. It comes with the cloth, and it comes with the pen. So we ordered 28 of those, and like I said, 16 of them use them on a daily basis. My 3rd grader uses an extra one here at home. This is Kesha, my 3rd grader. Would you like to tell them how you use the Rocketbook?
Yes.
Okay, Kesha's going to tell you how she uses the Rocketbook.
I'm gonna start out with saying they're so awesome. Like, I don't know how to explain. They're so awesome. How like you can write on them, then erase them. See, I used to use notebook paper, and it's kind of like I say that it's actually taking away our trees because paper is made from trees, and I think this is being so good, making more of a nature a nature friendly notebook. Back on to learning. See, I use like areas and perimeters, and it helps me when I draw these out. I'm like, oh, when I draw these out, I'm like, oh, okay, I understand now. And then I put it on the back, and I'm like, so it's really good for learning. And that's fantastic. There you go.
And again, she's a third grade student. That just came as a parent point of view. It was real easy for me because she had some educators in her third grade subject areas, I guess I should say, that didn't have places for them to submit their work. For example, I use Seesaw in a lot of activities along with the Rocket books, but she had especially one class that she needed to write or draw, and sometimes that was difficult. So using the Rocket book and then being able to scan it and send it to her teacher. The teacher was like, wow, what are y'all using? And we told her, well, we kind of borrowed a Rocket book that was extra from first grade. But this is, again, the Beaver Achievers. First grade is using those digital notebooks. So I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Again, I apologize for my two kids. We are at home on spring break, and I thought this would be a great time to record myself since I don't really get a break during the school day to do it. But maybe I was wrong. Trial and error, right? But thank you guys so much for granting the Rocket books to the first grade class at Beaver. We are truly enjoying them, and we are excited to see what else we can grow with by implementing our digital writing. So thank you so much.